Season.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into Puncher's Chance episode numero 2. That is right. As always, I'm with my main man, my co-host, Mr. Steven Hines. Well received episode number 1, so nowhere to go but up from here, Steve.
That we'll take it. We'll take it all day, right?
Well, I think the big question that everybody's been asking, they want to know your opinion, my opinion, Ben Askren, Jake Paul. Everybody knows I'm not a big Jake Paul guy. We are fans of Ben Askren. We think he's quite hilarious on the YouTube and on Twitter. So what are your immediate thoughts on this fight?
It's so I don't understand it from a Jake Paul perspective, because it's a win-win for him. Like, if he loses, he lost to a multi-time champion professional fighter.
Yeah.
But if he wins, he's like, hey, I beat a multi-time professional fighter. And all that means is Nate Robinson is not going to get for that rematch.
100%.
So now he's moving from like I fight YouTubers and basketball players to like, now I fight fighters. So to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because it's like, there's so much, you can make so much money fighting,
that could be your niche.
BHD.
Yep.
But like you see Nate Diaz coming up on you on the side of the street, you should probably get on the other side. So but I do think it's interesting that like Ben Askren was favored against Robbie Lawler, favored against Damian Maia, favored against Jorge Masvidal, and is an underdog against Jake Paul. So welcome to 2021, folks. This is where we're at. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But I guess that's the way the world is anymore.
So fight night, what happens? Your prediction right now. I told people we were going to give it. What is your prediction? What do you think? I mean, a lot of people, and I've heard this even on Joe Rogan's show, people are acting like Ben Askren is about to get knocked out in the first round. Like, he fought professionally in the UFC, is an Olympian. Like, I don't understand why we just keep shoving Ben Askren to the side like he's just the worst person to ever walk the earth.
Like, his hand speed, his boxing is not, it's not great. We'll just go with not great.
Yeah, it's not great.
Better than me, but like definitely not like a professional boxer skill.
Yeah.
So my prediction is that he is going to drag him out. He's going to try to go, I don't know what the round count is going to be. It's going to be full 12.
I think we're going 8 from what I was reading. We're going 8 rounds. Yeah.
I think you're going to get a lot of tie-ups, a lot of heavy leans, a lot of, for lack of a better term, clinch work.
Yeah.
And he's going to try to drag it in those later rounds. If Jake Paul doesn't knock him out in the first 2 rounds, it's Askren all day.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to end up being a lot like what we saw with the Mike Tyson Roy Jones Jr. fight, which is it's going to. I think the first 2 rounds is going to be explosive. You're going to see Ben Askren and Jake Paul going for it all, going for the knockout, and then, like you said, if it survives past those first 2 rounds, you're just going to get a drug out in the clinch, having to break it up every 10 seconds. And it's going to be one of those long nights. And at the end of the day, if it goes into something like that, I just think Ben Askren is going to win on the scorecard, because he knows how to stay active enough. And Jake Paul's never been in a situation, because like you said, he's been fighting YouTubers where he's had to be productive in later rounds. I mean, he's been fighting guys that have never touched a boxing ring in their entire lives. And now all of a sudden he's jumping to a guy who's been in a octagon and been an Olympian. He's a champion from, now granted, like you said, his background is wrestling. He's an Olympian in wrestling. He was a stud in Bellator and everything else in wrestling. But even though he's not a striker, I don't think you can just shove that aside, that he has the capability of hitting guys. and he has a strong chin. Besides Jorge Masvidal, who had one of the nastiest knockouts in UFC history with a flying knee in the first 2 seconds of the round, I mean, it's not like he's been getting dropped. He even said it on his own channel. He's only been dropped, I think, twice in his entire career. One was I can't think of the fighter's name right now, and the other one was Jorge Masvidal. The only 2 times he's ever hit the mat. So he has had a couple fights where he stood up the entire time too. So I think we have seen he has the capability to do that. Jake loses this fight. I mean, now we know, like, hey, you're just a YouTube star who fought a couple fights. You got your money. I don't know that people are going to start taking him serious to take, because he wants to push further into the realm. If he wins this fight, I mean, now you have, like you said, you have guys who actually are good in this field coming after you. And I don't know that we've seen Jake Paul, if he has enough talent to survive in that kind of an environment.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know one guy that's going to be watching. It's going to be Dillon Danis. So we'll see how that goes.
Dillon Danis has already been chirping on Instagram, been chirping on Twitter.
That's what he does.
I think either way, I do believe this gets drug out into the full 8. And I just believe Ben Askren's going to survive. I think it's just going to be one of those boring fights that somebody pays $70 for, like we saw last time. And, it's just a money grab and go. Well, I mean, those are our predictions for that. Let's go ahead and get to the main card, what people are actually here for, UFC 258. And we have a pretty good card here. There's a common theme that I have seen just at the beginning of this year, and that is basically Dana White is weeding out, and we talked about this on the last show. He's starting to just weed out people. They have an overbloated roster. He's talked about it. Some of these older guys that are hanging on by a thread and are 2 and 3 fight losses in a row, he's trying to get those guys out of here. He's trying to get these younger guys to either rise or fall out and move on to Bellator or whatever else. And I think we see this very, very, very similar on this card. It seems like it's a lot of guys where they're very similar in fighting styles, very similar in records and stature. And I think we're getting the exact same thing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been an interesting thing. Let's just say that Yoel Romero and Bellator, I am stoked for that. So I'm glad he's doing it.
Yeah.
And I can't wait till next week when Alistair Overeem ends up over there. It's going to be amazing.
Yep. Alistair Overeem joining Bellator, and there's going to be a lot of moves coming from Bellator to the UFC to Bellator because, like I said, we have a bloated roster, and you're going to start seeing a lot of these people moving over into Bellator. But that brings us to the first matchup of the night, Jimmy Miller versus Bobby Green. Now, they have a combined 87 professional fights. Green is a good boxer. Of course, he's a great wrestler as well. Miller is coming into the octagon for his 37th time. 37th time. I mean, these guys have just been around fighting longer than it seems like, have been alive. Just start off with this card. What do you got in this matchup? Because they're both very similar. They're both just durable guys that like to punch. They like to get scrappy. They like to get dirty, and they've been in the mud basically their entire careers.
Yeah, I mean, Miller's definitely got a pretty sizable edge on this. I think that just his durability over time is going to be what holds up for him. I just don't see Bobby Green being able to get it done. But also, like you say, these are 2 guys that have been around forever. And so who knows? I mean, this is one of those where if I had to put money on the line, I'd say Jim Miller's going to take it. But also, when you get to that age and you get to this stage in your career, literally anything can happen. Like we saw with Alistair last week.
Yeah.
Here's a guy who won 5 of his last 7, who just got pummeled.
Obliterated.
So I mean, when you get to this age, anything can happen. But I'm going to give it to Jim.
Yeah, like you just said, this is one of those things, and I think this is where we're going to see either one of these guys, whoever wins is going to get probably 3 more professional fights, and then they're probably going to get cut from the roster as well. Jim Miller, if you look at it, should walk away with a victory here, but I wouldn't put it past Bobby Green to get the job done either. I'm going to go opposite here. Just give us that 50-50 shot. I'm going to go Green. I think Green has the capabilities, a little bit more technical, and he's got a little less on the tank than Miller does. And like you said, it's just one of those throwaway fights where you're just like, one of these guys is getting cut in 6 months. One of them's probably going to get cut after this fight. So it's just one of those throwaway fights. And that moves us on to the next fight. We have Maki Pitolo, the Hawaiian Monster, versus Julian Marquez, two guys who also, one of them's newer to the league and one of them's been around but hasn't fought in a while. Pitolo's coming in trying to snap a 2-fight losing streak. Yet again, the Hawaiian brings, of course, a lot of crazy speed, and he's just relentless. His last fight, I mean, he can take a punch and give a punch. He's never going to be out of a fight. And he's going up against Marquez, who is finally back. It's been 2018 since he was last in the octagon. So all that time being out of the octagon, it makes it for a very interesting matchup. A guy who's struggling, but also very new into the UFC, and a guy who's been around it, but he's just been out for so long.
I mean, this is a case here where, I mean, you have people who know better than me say ring rust isn't a real thing. But I see a lot of guys who take long layoffs, get knocked out. And I don't know how you can't pull for a guy whose nickname is Coconut Bombs. So Maki Pitolo, he had one fight in Bellator, some time on the Contender Series. Those dudes on the Contender Series always, when it gets close, those are the guys who I always pull for, just because there's no guarantees. I mean, I'm going to take Maki in this one. Like you say, he's got explosiveness, he's got some speed, he's got some power, got a little bit of that, who really knows what he's going to do. And that's really what I think is going to give him the edge.
Yeah, I'm with you. People keep saying, like you said, higher up say ring rust is not a real thing. I just don't understand how Julian Marquez can be off for so long and then step into the ring and be dominant. I think we even saw some rust on Conor McGregor. Like he said, he spent how little time in the octagon last year. And then when he came in fighting Dustin Poirier, he looked a little off edge and uncomfortable in the octagon. I just think I personally believe you can't be off that long and step into the octagon and immediately go against a guy like Maki Pitolo, who, like you said, he's just one of those. He's a fighter at heart, somebody who's just going to go down swinging. He reminds me a lot of like a Tony Ferguson, somebody who's just going to go down swinging no matter what. He's going to let his arm break in an arm bar because he's just that kind of a guy. I'm going to go Maki here. I think he gets back on track. I think he's learned a lot from his last two losses. He went in there doing what he thought was right, which is walk in there and try and be the crazy aggressor. And the problem is he got caught in two bad situations of fighters that just simply picked him apart. So I think he's finally settled down. Maybe he got the pre-UFC jitters out of him. I like Pitolo in this matchup. And that moves us on to Kelvin Gastelum and Ian Heinisch. Now Gastelum is also looking to snap a three-fight losing streak, and then Ian's coming off a 74-second knockout. So you have two completely different scenarios here. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
So this is where I think this is my dog of the fight here. I think Gastelum has everything it takes to be a world champion.
Yeah.
And I think Heinisch is not an easy matchup for him. But I think Gastelum, if he gets his head right, he's another one of those fighters that just has all the tools. If he could just get the mental part down, he would be a champion tomorrow. And I think this is going to be the fight that really propels him to that level.
Yeah, I mean, think about this was his last two losses. Israel Adonijah, the defending champion right now, and Darren Till, both great fighters, and he took them down to the wire. I mean, he was performing toe-to-toe with them. And like you said, if he can get mentally on the right spectrum, he was toe-to-toe with some of the best fighters in that division, and he really does have the capability. I was watching a really interesting interview with him because I didn't know a whole lot about him. I've seen him fight a couple times, but when I was researching for this, I was like, man, this guy, I like this guy. Like you said, he's one of those people that you want to like, you want to be successful. Heinisch, he's one of those guys, when he fights sloppy. I don't think he has those that X factor that Gastelum has. I really like what Gastelum has. I'm going to go Gastelum here in the championship form. I think he shows and proves that he should be up top of that division and fighting for the championship very soon. And that puts us to our co-main event. Basically, it looks kind of like a twin versus a twin because we have young Maycee Barber fighting basically an older Maycee Barber and Alexa Grasso. Now, Barber, of course, stormed out of the gate 8-0. The young 22-year-old had a sad ending when she tore her ACL, but she was on the road to be a champion. She was on the road to be the youngest champion in UFC history, right along with Jon Jones, derailed by that ACL injury. And then she's going up against Alexa Grasso, who was basically like a young Maycee Barber. Both had a very similar start, 8-0, going to the top of the division. Then she missed weight. She had a couple ticky-tack injuries. Next thing you know, They both find their way back to the octagon. So I feel like this is a redemption fight for both of these ladies. One of them, Maycee Barber, to prove that she does belong up top and does belong holding that belt. And then Alexa Grasso, who believes that she still has an opportunity to, even though, she's been through it. So, I mean, straight out the gate, this could be fight of the night for me. As if this plays out the way I think it will. You have a young champ who wants to fight somebody who thinks that they can still be the champ. But what do you think?
All right. So my prediction for this one, I think Maycee Barber goes in there and gets the finish. She was on such a tear and on such a streak, and really had that unfortunate injury, and going down the way she did.
Yeah.
I think she comes in there and she puts on a show, dominates, and reminds everybody exactly who she is in that division.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Maycee Barber comes back off the ACL injury. I think she looks good. I think she just takes it to her. I think this could be a first round, second round knockout if she comes out the gate swinging like I know she can. Although they're both very similar fighters, very similar styles.
Yeah.
Maycee Barber's got the youth. Maycee Barber's got, I think, a little bit more technical skill when it comes down to it. And I think Maycee Barber's going to get this one done. I'm telling you, this could be fight of the night if it goes the way that I think it can. And that puts us to the big fight of the night, the main event, a championship on the line. Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. Finally, we get this matchup. This has been delayed twice. It was almost delayed this time, but finally they signed it pen to paper because Dana White said it either gets done now or it's not happening ever in the UFC. Well, we got Usman, undefeated in the UFC, of course, both excellent on the ground. Man, this championship fight, this could go either way for me. I mean, I'm a big Kamaru Usman fan. I think he has the edge here, but there's a lot that could happen in this fight.
So this is the one that I keep going back and forth.
Same
if you listen to people who know, obviously former teammates, former training partners.
Yeah.
And they say that there's no way that Burns doesn't get this done.
That's what I've heard.
But Usman's undefeated for a reason. I feel like he's got a little bit of that Stipe syndrome.
Yes.
To where, here he is, a champion, destroying people, and everyone's like, yeah, but that next guy is really good. It's, Stipe gets that whole thing with, right now we're all looking at Francis Ngannou and we're just like, whew.
Yeah.
But I think this has a potential to go two ways. Obviously, being training partners, they know what each other's good at. They know where the other one has gotten them in the past. I feel like there's a possibility that this becomes a boring first two rounds.
Yeah.
Burns is going to be able to get him in some uncomfortable positions that, he's been prepared for, these are coming. But when you're just as good as Burns, it's tough to stop it.
Yeah, I'm the same way here. I think Kamaru Usman, although he is the champion, although he is undefeated, and I know a lot of people are saying that he will retain the belt. I'm with you here because I've heard a lot of very well-known fighters and broadcasters talking about how Gilbert Burns can get the job done. They're both excellent grapplers. They both like to go to the ground, but Gilbert Burns is a little bit more skilled and technical on the ground, whereas Kamaru Usman is one of those guys where he's a safe champion, as I like to call him. Like you said, he has the Stipe syndrome. He's somebody that if you get it, he likes to get you in the clinch, and he'll just score his points. He likes winning those safe decisions. He's not trying to come out there and Superman punch you to knock you down to the mat. He's very comfortable on the ground. But the problem is can Kamaru Usman control whoever wins this match is going to be who can control the entire, last 5 minutes. Cause like you said, I think the first couple rounds are going to be boring. I think it's going to be one of those fights where people are like, I paid $70 for this. And then they're going to have to get it done in those final few rounds. And I think that's where we're going to find it to be very interesting. I honestly think a submission could happen here. I honestly do.
Kamaru is a more technical striker. Burns has more power.
Yeah.
So, when you start going like, okay, so Burns is more technical on the ground, but Kamaru is, a world-class wrestler.
Better, yeah.
But Kamaru is more technical on the feet. Burns has got more power. His stand up is just really starting to catch up to his ground game a little bit.
Yeah.
My guarantee, this is my prediction here.
Okay.
Is Burns will charge the center of the octagon the minute that bell rings.
Yep.
Because the last thing you want is Usman walking you back. Yep. I think that the same way Burns handled Woodley is the same way he's going to go into this fight with Usman, and he is going to charge him and try to hold that center the entire time.
Yeah, like that's exactly what I was talking about.
And if he could do that, I don't know. If he could do that, I don't know that Usman's. I mean, he's can technically strike. I don't know that he's going to be able to knock him out.
Yeah. I don't think Usman, although like you said, he's a better striker, I don't know that he has the capability of putting somebody like Burns down for the count. It's going to be, for me, whoever controls the center of that octagon. Like you said, if you can control the center of that octagon and you can control what's happening throughout that fight, that is going to be who ends up winning. This could be one of those fights where I've seen a lot of people talking about this. DC even talked about it. Gilbert Burns, if they go to the ground, Gilbert Burns could knock this out with a submission. So I don't know. I part of me wants to pull for Kamaru Usman. Part of me wants to pull for Gilbert Burns. This is one of those fights where I love it because I don't have a dog in the fight. But Kamaru Usman, can he keep him on the feet? Can Kamaru Usman make this a clinch, a takedown defense, and just score the point and get a safe decision victory? Or is Gilbert Burns, like you said, just going to charge the center of the octagon and try and make it sloppy and make it, try and take him down and ground and pound, or try and submission him and keep him tired on the ground? I just don't know. This is one of those toss-up fights for me. I'm going to go Gilbert Burns. I would not put it past Kamaru Usman to also walk away with this fight. It's one of those toss-ups for me, but I'm going to go Gilbert Burns here.
Well, I think I'm going to go Usman. I'm going to go opposite of you, and I'm not mad at taking the defending champion.
Yeah.
I think he can use his wrestling to negate the jiu-jitsu, and I think he can use his power to keep Burns honest enough not to make any crazy moves. So I'm going to go Usman in 5.
You're going to go Usman in 5. That is Steve's prediction. We've got Usman in 5. I'm going to go Burns in 5. But like you said, I'm not bad at this fight either way. I think this is going to be an excellent fight. I think people are going to have a lot of fun watching this one. Listen, Puncher's Chance 2 is in the books. We've got a lot of fights coming up. We've got some technical difficulties going on, but we are moving some new equipment around. We're getting some new things in. So bear with us as we have all of this new stuff working. We're still working it out. I know a lot of you have noticed and have complimented that we have an actual microphone in the picture now. We're using that. So with all this new equipment coming into play, we've got some technical difficulties, but we've got another Puncher's Chance next week with probably one of my favorite fight cards around, because I love Derrick Lewis that much. There's always great things to come when that man is in the octagon. So we've got a great fight card next week. We've got some great fights this coming fight night on Saturday. Make sure you check out Puncher's Chance. All the information's below. Share with a friend if you like us. We'll see you next time.
See ya. Gold.